Record. Hello friends, today we will be continuing the discussion on ANS, and in the ANS we said yesterday that we have some classification of the cholinergic drugs, that is some are directly acting, some are reversible, some are irreversible, and in that we classified them on the basis of lipid solubility, that some of them are lipid soluble, which is also called as what, Alzheimer's group, isn't it? Do you know it? This is called Alzheimer's group what? Physostigmine, tacrine, galantamine, rivastigmine, donepezil. They all are called as Alzheimer's group because they can, one of that drug, that physostigmine, and also can pass the CNS very freely. I will be telling that story. Don't worry. So today I want to discuss some uses of these drugs. You know what you have to remember. Okay. So if I go into the what we had taken, we had written something here. I think that directly acting, isn't it? So let us take those directly acting. Let us take those directly acting drugs. So directly acting drugs. So directly acting, we have what? Basically, these directly acting are esters. What? These are esters of choline. If you take choline and if you make its ester, we call it its ester of choline. Okay, yeah, PMABC, that is pilocarpine, methanicol, acetylcholine, methacholine, and carbachol. Okay, these are all what? These are, we call them natural alkaloids. Natural alkaloids. We call them natural alkaloids. Natural alkaloids. Why natural alkaloids? Which of the following is natural alkaloid? It is, yesterday we had written ACH, nicotine, muscarine, remember, pilocarpine, and arecoline. What? Arecoline. It's based on my name, isn't it? Arecoline. Okay. Is it fine? Is the audio clear? Everything clear? Video clear? Fine. Okay. Now see, you can have directly acting drugs which can be either your natural alkaloids, or you can have synthetics. Which of them are synthetics? Methacholine, carbachol, methanicol. Which are natural alkaloids? ACH, pilocarpine, nicotine, arecoline, and muscarine. So these are all what? Natural alkaloids. Synthetics are MCB. Okay, it's not, if you even forget, don't worry. Okay, just remember that there are two types: natural alkaloids and synthetic. Okay, now sir, if I want to ask you a question, not a question actually, I want to discuss this thing, is why if somebody, if I want to give someone if I want to have a parasympathomimic action, that is I want to have a parasympathetic like action, why don't I give acetylcholine to that person directly? Because the reason is that acetylcholine, if I use it clinically, it will be fastly degraded by the enzymes. So choline esterases, we have choline esterases in the plasma. We have choline esterases in the plasma. So these choline esterases will fastly metabolize them. They will very quickly metabolize these acetylcholine, and that means your effect will decrease. So if you are giving them through the IV route, what will happen? They will be fastly metabolized by the choline esterases. There are plasma choline esterases. So these enzymes in the plasma will cause quick metabolism of acetylcholine. That's why we are not using this clinically. Okay. Second thing to remember from those drugs was, if I can get that here, there are so lot of content we have learned. Let me find that page. See this. If I take this page, the yesterday's page, what to do is this acetylcholine, you have to write here that it is not used clinically because it is metabolized by cholinesterases. It's metabolized by cholinesterases, and these cholinesterases will decrease the efficacy, the effect of these drugs, because you're metabolizing more. That means you will have less blood in the circulation. That means there will be less effect. Okay. Now, what about this metha? Remember, M for metha, M for metha, M for myocardium, M for metha, M for myocardium, M for metha, M for myocardium, guys. Myocardium means I see this methacholine is having the highest action on myocardial tissue. Okay. Second use of this methacholine is that, sir, how to remember that these are the drugs? You can also remember that, see, this is call, this is call, this is call, this is call, isn't it? Okay. And can you see, sir, first one is not having call, first one is also having call. Go to the reverse direction here. I can see the call, I can see the, is it clear? You should have your imagination. So call, 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 call. So all calls are directly acting. So this is one way you can identify the objectives. Even if you don't remember anything, just see call, where is call? I will take that. Directly acting, directly acting. Fine. Now myocardium, it has methacholine, has much more action on the, highest action on the myocardium. The another use of this is that it can be used in case of, we had a test that is called methacholine test in the bronchial asthma. Okay, we have a test. I want to write about methacholine downwards. Let me bring this chart here. Okay, I have copied this. Let us write cleanly here. Oh, okay, friends. Yeah. So if I talk about this methacholine is having the maximum amount of action on the myocardium, Okay, and can you tell me the receptor, please? Which receptor will it be using? Muscarinic receptor. Which muscarinic receptor? Beautiful answer. M2 receptors will be using. Okay, so what we do is we are giving this methacholine in the patients whom I want to diagnose bronchial hyperactivity. Like I have a patient who is not showing me the symptoms, who is not showing me the clear symptoms of a bronchial hyperreactivity, who is not showing me the symptoms of bronchial hyperreactivity. Okay, or he's not having that, I can't, from my clinical judgment, I can't understand that whether he is having the asthma or not. It's not apparent. It's not clinically apparent that he has asthma. Okay, so what we do is we give a test that is called a methacholine challenge test. So what is this methacholine used for? In the diagnosis of bronchial hyperreactivity. Bronchial hyperreactivity in the patients who have clinically absent features of asthma. I can't see the asthma, but once I do this test, I can see. Okay, that I will be teaching you later on. Just remember one more line about this. Taking this next drug from here, acetylcholine we have finished, methacholine we have finished. If I take pilocarpine, P for pilo, P for pupillary constrictor, P for pilo, P for pupillary constrictor. Let me write here. Pilocarpine, it is a pupillary constrictor. P for pilo, P for pupillary constrictor. Can you tell us the receptor? Guys, can you tell us the receptor? Which receptor will be present? Muscarinic receptor on this pupillary muscle? Beautiful answer. M3. M3, I have taught you in the previous video. Just check the ANS part 1 and part 2. Just you will become masters of receptors. Okay. So pilocarpine pupillary constrictor. So that means I will have dash meiosis. I will have meiosis, that is constriction of the pupil and less light coming inside. Okay. This pilocarpine has one problem. Not problem, actually, it is this way we are using this. Okay. What will happen? First I want to tell you a problem. The problem is I will be teaching in glaucoma. The problem is once we are giving pilocarpine, it is a shortest acting. It is short duration. It is a short duration of action. And what will happen? once, even if you forget dosages, even if you forget one dosage, the intraocular pressure will rise. The intraocular, you have a pressure inside, isn't it? Greater than 21 will be the glaucoma. You have an intraocular pressure, intraocular tension, normal intraocular tension you have, isn't it? So that normal intraocular tension, if it gets high, then you will have glaucoma. Greater than 21 mm of Hg, you will have glaucoma. So in meiosis, if you forget in the pilocarpine, you were taking pilocarpine and suddenly you stopped it or you forgot one dose, what will happen? You will have a raised intraocular tension. So you will increase the intraocular tension. You will raise the intraocular tension, and that will definitely manifest in that way. Okay, fine. This is what you have to remember from pilocarpine. And talking about this bithanicol, B for bladder. Common, common sense you can take how to remember things. B for bithanicol, B for bladder. So bithanicol is used on the, what you want to do. So since it's a parasympathomimetic, so that means it will go to the bladder. That means it will contract the bladder. That uses, isn't it? So, and the beauty is that once you are giving this bithanicol, B is only B. B is only B, guys. B is only B. There is nothing C, D, E. What do you mean by why are you saying C, D, E, F, G, H? No, I'm saying if you have blood B, you have B only. What does it mean, sir? Means there is no nicotinic activity. We had two types of receptors, muscarinic and nicotinic, NM and NN. It does not have any NN and NM. So if I want to target only the bladder problem, can I target this with this? I'm giving an example. The bladder problems, the bladder, incontinence, the bladder problems, whatever, urinary retention is there, that has its own protocol to follow. But I'm telling you as an example to understand that if I want to only target the bladder, everything is fine. Person is having very nice parasympathetic activity. He's not having any problem. No, except bladder, everything is fine. So can I think of bithanicol because it has only the bladder action and no nicotinic action? Because I don't want nicotinic action. I don't want the action on the muscles. I don't want the action on the ganglia. I don't want the action on the adrenal medulla. I don't want that. I only want bladder action. So bithanicol has specific bladder action. Is it clear? What about carbachol? C for carba, C for common, guys. C for carba, C for common. Carbachol is having both activities, N activity and muscarinic. I should write N activity and M activity. It has both N activity and M activity, guys. So is it non-specific or not? Yes, a non-specific going to every place. Okay. Now, we are using a constituent, we are using pilocarpine where we are using in case of Sjogren syndrome. Do you know Sjogren syndrome? In Sjogren syndrome, the person is completely autoimmune disorder basically. In this case, the patient has a problem with the parotid gland, the secretions. And what happens, he has destroyed his gland. For somehow, I will be telling you that pathology in the pathology class. So in Sjogren syndrome, you don't have enough saliva. So what will happen? You will have a dry mouth. Now tell me one thing, guys. Tell me one thing. Will I increase the secretion or not? Once I am giving, a person is coming to a dry mouth because of the Sjogren syndrome, or also because he had gone to some, radiation therapy, and due to that the salivary glands got destroyed. Can I give the pilocarpine? So there are two drugs, remember, for Sjogren syndrome: pilocarpine and cevimeline. Pilocarpine, cevimeline, pilocarpine, cevimeline, pilocarpine, cevimeline for Sjogren, for increasing the secretions, for treating the dry mouth, for treating the dry mouth. Is it clear, friends? Okay, easy. Remember one concept. I told you that directly acting drugs are cholinesterase. Did I tell that? Did I tell that directly acting drugs are cholinesterase actually? So remember, cholineesters are not BB permeable. They do not cross blood-brain barrier. You have to remember this concept. Cholineesters do not cross Do not cross blood-brain barrier. Do not cross blood-brain barrier. Which can cause blood-brain barrier? Which can cross blood-brain barrier out of this? Pilocarpine and nicotine. Pilocarpine and nicotine can cross blood-brain barrier. Pilocarpine, nicotine can cross blood-brain barrier. Can cause blood-brain barrier. If you don't revise this at home, it is volatile subject, guys. Pharmacology is volatile. I mean, if you understand it by concept, then it becomes easy. Okay, fine. Why, sir, this is able to penetrate the CNS? Because it is a tertiary amine. Remember, two amines, tertiary amine, quaternary amine. Okay, quaternary amine, tertiary amine. If someone is tertiary amine, he can cross the BBB. If someone is tertiary amine, he can cross the central nervous system. Pilocarpine is a tertiary amine and can cross the blood-brain barrier. Is it clear, friends? Okay. I have to say okay because in person should not get, okay. So now tell me, what 4 diseases did you learn? What 4 diseases did you learn? You learn that if I have, what diseases do I learn about these 4? How to remember in smart way? What 4 diseases we learn? We learned 4 diseases. We learned atonic bladder. We learned tachycardias or tachyarrhythmias. We learned glaucoma, angle closure glaucoma. So what is the treatment of angle closure glaucoma? We will be learning that in detail, don't worry. But here, for the sake of writing, I'll be treating in glaucoma in the eye, explaining you how glaucoma is happening. Angle closure glaucoma, what is the treatment? Pilocarpine. Pilocarpine, because pupils are which receptor, sir? M3. Easy way to remember. Bethanicol. Bethanicol, sir, you said bladder. That means if someone's bladder is not moving, he is not dropping the urine. This is the urinary trigon. And this trigon, this bladder trigon, is not able to contract. Ideally, it should contract. Once it contracts, then the urine can flow. But it's not contracting. That means I should stimulate the M3 receptors to tell him, yeah, please contract. So who is the M3 agonist? Who will be doing this? Bladder. Bethanicol is having this specific bladder activity and has no nicotinic or muscarinic activity. So bladder, bethanicol can be used for what disease? Treatment of atonic bladder. Atonic means bladder is not doing anything. Bladder is sleeping, looking at you like a bogus guy, like this. You are telling him, please urinate. No. Please urinate. No. Okay, let me give you bethanicol. Give him bethanicol. Okay, person is in the washroom now. Is it clear? What other disease we learned? We learned tachy. Now tell me one thing. If you are doing a parasympathomimic activity, that means in the heart you are stimulating the M2 receptors, and we know M2 receptors are what? QIQ. I is inhibitory. So that means M2 receptors in the heart will be blocking, will be causing the stimulation of vagus activity, the right vagus and the left vagus, finally leading to decrease in the heart rate. That means I can use M2 agonists, M2 parasympathomimetic, that is methacholine, for tachyarrhythmias. So what was the treatment of tachyarrhythmias? Treatment of, very nice answer, Fabina, chronotropic. So tachyarrhythmias we can treat with methacholine, M2 mimetics. I can also say M2 mimetics. Why to keep ourselves so much restrained? We have to understand concept. M2 mimetics. Okay, that's good. That's good. You have understood this much. So you have learned 3 diseases in this: angle closure glaucoma, atonic bladder, tachyarrhythmias. Treatment: pilocarpine, bethanicol, and methacholine. Easy. Now I tell you, give me a name of a drug. Give me a name of a drug which I can give in the dry mouth in case of Sjogren syndrome. I give in xerostomia. Dry mouth is called xerostomia. So what is the drug? Parasympathomimetic, you can tell me. It is cevimeline. Remember, cevimeline. Cevimeline is basically, a newer congener. Okay, it's a newer one. Okay, so we can remember pilocarpine and cevimeline. Okay, easy. Now, I think this much is okay for directly acting because this much is important. You have to remember at least this much. Okay. Now I will take you to the indirectly acting. Where is the indirectly drug? Indirectly table we haven't copied. Let us go to indirectly table. Indirectly table. Where is the indirectly table? So much things we have learned. Yeah. Okay. This much. Copy going down. To travel a lot, isn't it? We have to travel a lot. London, Paris, New York. We have to travel so much so that we can copy this. We should ideally explain it there only. Why to go so much long? Explain it there only. I love that. Once we write something and explain it there only, it becomes more concrete in the brain. Okay. So guys, indirectly acting, if I take these indirectly, what were they doing? They were finally, sir, inhibiting the anticholinerase. They were acting as an anticholinesterases. Yesterday we have learned it. That's why we call it anticholinesterases. Now we learned that these can be reversible. These can be reversible. Taking reversible ones first. Taking reversible ones. I want to take two things. I want to take two drugs here. In the reversible ones, if I take, there is a question which will be asked to you. Pyridostigmine, physostigmine, neostigmine. What is special about these? Is it clear? What is special about these? Okay. So you learned pilocarpine, you have done. Okay. And by the way, don't remember, pilocarpine does not come in an oral form. It is an ophthalmic preparation. Remember, for the angle closure glaucoma, you are giving an ophthalmic preparation. Okay. So I want some people, I think they get lost sometimes. So let me write for you. What are the uses of bethanicol? Okay, let me write 2 or 3 names. One, I told you, atonic bladder. Atonic bladder. Okay, that is atonic bladder. What is the definition of atonic bladder? Means urine is getting retained in the absence of obstruction. The urine is getting retained. The urine is getting retained in the absence of obstruction. There is no boo. There is no boo. What is boo? Bladder outlet obstruction, guys. There is no boo. But if it had been an obstruction, I could relieve that obstruction. I could do that sphincter changes, isn't it? I could do some prostate problem, isn't it? Prostate, I could have given those drugs, DHT inhibitors, finasteride, dutasteride. But I am telling you, he's not having anything, and still he's not able to empty the bladder. So that means he's having atonic bladder. Second thing is, after the operation, once we are touching or we have given anesthesia, he is not able to pass urine also. Okay, he is not able to pass, sorry, he is not able to, his his intestines are not in peristalsis. They should go into peristalsis. Once we are giving an anesthesia, so that we call post-operative ileus. So we use it in post-operative ileus. Post-operative ileus, guys. Post-operative ileus. What else? If you do any bilateral vagotomy, okay, that is, you remove the vagus nerve. Bilateral vagotomy. In bilateral vagotomy, what will happen? Gastric atony will happen. Now there will be gastric atony also. But bethanicol is not having any nicotinic activity. I'm telling you again. I hope you understand what is nicotinic and muscarinic activity. Don't get confused, sir. You told us nicotinic. I'm telling you again, its nicotinic activity is not there. So still we are in the muscarinic activity. We are in the muscarinic area. So gastric atony or retention after the bilateral vagotomy, you can give this bethanicol. So bethanicol can be used. So basically, if they ask you in the question, if they do, what is the selectivity? If they ask you another question, it has been asked in some exams, what is the selectivity of bethanicol? Selectivity is it can act on the smooth muscles of GI tract and urinary bladder. If you want to choose two smooth muscle, GIT tract, smooth muscle of GIT tract, urinary bladder. But again, I'm telling you, why we wrote B, because I wanted you to remember at least one for bladder. If you want to remember more, smooth muscle for gastrointestinal tract, smooth muscle of gastrointestinal tract. Okay, so I hope you understand this bethanicol. Okay, So pilocarpine you are using in glaucoma, and I told you it's not an oral preparation, it's an ophthalmic preparation. It's an ophthalmic. So glaucoma, we are giving ophthalmic preparation of pilocarpine. Ophthalmic preparation of pilocarpine. Fine. Or you are giving it. Also, you learned right now. You said me cevimeline is there, or this pilocarpine also we are giving in. Sjogren syndrome, dry mouth, xerostomia is there. Okay, fine. Okay. Now talking about now I will go to the reversible anticholinesterase. I will go to reversible anticholinesterase. So let us take the topic. Can you understand that chart? Which chart we are talking about? We are talking about the lipid soluble and water soluble. We are going into physostigmine, tacrine, donepezil, rivastigmine, galantamine. Professor Dr. Thakur Galla. Professor Dr. Thakur Galla and PAN. We have to study Professor Dr. Thakur Galla, the lipid fatty guy, fluffy guy, and water soluble PAN. Water soluble PAN, which happened in my case in the school. He spoiled my sheets. I was using ink pen, and I came to know that these are water soluble. So let me come here. Let me write a reversible. Are we writing notes or we are watching the books? It won't help you. Write the notes, man. Write the notes. Believe me, writing the notes will qualify every exam. Reversible anticholinesterases. Reversible anticholinesterases, guys. In the reversible anticholinesterases, what is reversible, sir? We remember lipid soluble, we remember water soluble. Again, saying the same thing. Professor Dr. Thakur Galla, physostigmine, tacrine, donepezil, rivastigmine, galantamine. Water soluble, pyridostigmine, hydrophonium, neostigmine. Okay? Now listen to me, my friends. What are they doing? Sir, the name is itself saying they are inhibiting the cholinesterases. They are inhibiting the cholinesterases. Taking three in my brain. Okay, I'm taking three in my brain so that we can learn. Okay, let me say like this. I take physostigmine. I take neostigmine. Or I should do also that hydrophonium. I don't have to say more about it. That's why I'm telling you. Okay, I want to compare them. Physostigmine, neostigmine, and pyridostigmine. Let us study them in like this. Stigmine, only stigmines. Okay, I have to study hydrophonium also, don't worry, but here giving these three big names because you have came across them in the I think in the Guyton also. Guyton has also mentioned about them in the muscle physiology part, isn't it? I remember my first year, definitely it's on left page, I think on the left page of that Guyton, is it? Left side, it's written a small second paragraph will be there, written there. So pyridostigmine, neostigmine, and physostigmine, neostigmine, pyridostigmine. Remember, now tell me one thing. I write here tertiary amine. It means dash. Guys, it means dash. Tertiary amine I wrote here. It means dash. It means is equal to lipid soluble. Whatever is lipid soluble will cross the blood brain barrier. Highly lipid soluble it is. I should write highly lipid soluble. So highly lipid soluble can cross B, B, B. So tick on B, B, B. What is B, B, B? Thinking good things. Blood brain barrier. Blood brain barrier. Fine. Yeah. Which groups can also, which are also in this physostigmine, tacrine? Yeah. Professor Dr. Thakur Galla. Okay. Can you give this orally? Can you give this drug orally, guys? Yes. Why not, sir? Because it can cross the CN. It's lipid soluble. It is lipid soluble, sir. It's lipid soluble. Sir, can it cause the eye? Sir, can it cause the corneal membrane? Yes. So it can cause BBB. It can cause corneal membrane. Is it clear? Membrane is lipid soluble. Membrane is made up of lipid. Lipid is lipid. Like louse like. Unlike louse unlike. Okay. Okay. Remember, if you have any lipid insoluble thing that will not cross that will not be, we won't take it orally, and we won't be able to reach that thing into the CNS. We won't be able to reach that thing in the corneal membrane or any membrane. So physostigmine is a beautiful thing. Is it lipid soluble? Tacrine is lipid soluble. Donepezil is lipid soluble. Rivastigmine is lipid soluble. Galantamine is lipid soluble. You are sending these are all anticholinesterases. Okay, clear? Clear, guys? Going to neostigmine, beautiful drug. We are using it in the treatment of myasthenia gravis. We are using it in the treatment of myasthenia gravis. Fine. It is synthetic. Who is natural? Physostigmine is natural. Physostigmine is natural. Physostigmine is natural. Neostigmine is synthetic. Neostigmine is synthetic. Fine. Who is telling you it is not lipid soluble? Who is telling you it's not lipid soluble? This is telling you it's not lipid soluble. Not lipid soluble. Fine. Not lipid soluble. This is telling you this is. Who is quaternary amine between these two? Who should be quaternary amine now? Who should be a quaternary amine? Neostigmine, quaternary amine, 4 degree. Can it cross BBB? Yes or no? Can it cross BBB? Can it cross? Can I give it in the corneal membrane? No, sir. Can I give it orally? No, sir. Is it clear? Fine. Exactly. Very nice answers. So neostigmine, not able to cross the BBB, but it has a NM receptor agonism action. It is NM agonist. NM receptor agonist. NM receptor agonist. Okay. Now see, where are we using physostigmine? Physostigmine we are using where? Glaucoma. Do we know? Glaucoma. Okay. We are using physostigmine in glaucoma. What it does, it causes meiosis. See, I will tell you one thing. If you have something, an apparatus like this, guys, now tell me here is any angle. Okay, here is any angle. If you in such a way you bring these things closer and something is draining from this side, I will teach you in glaucoma, just here making orient. If something is draining from this side, do you think this angle should be more or it should become more, it should get closed? Should this angle become more open for drainage like this, or it should become this? It should become A or B. It should become A so that I can have a good drainage. So what happens in meiosis is, once you do, what happens in glaucoma, this glaucoma is doing what? You don't want things to remain like this. So glaucoma, you have this. Glaucoma, you can't drain. But in, I will be teaching you the glaucoma in detail. Just don't worry about that. Just remember, we are using it in the treatment of, as a meiotic drug in the treatment of glaucoma. Just remember right now this much so that I can teach you later the glaucoma. All big diagrams I will make for you, not going deviated from my topic. And once you have atropine poisoning, what is atropine? Atropine is an anticholinergic drug. Atropine is an anticholinergic drug. Can I say it is a parasympatholytic drug? Atropine, if it is anticholinergic, can I say it is parasympatholytic? Yes, it is parasympatholytic. That means it won't be allowing the sympathetic parasympathetic activity to go. So what happens if there is a cobra bite. If there is a cobra bite, what has cobra poison has certain chemicals which can cause skeletal muscle paralysis. So what do you want to do? Do you want to increase the acetylcholine levels now or not, so that muscle can work, muscle can function? Because it's only possible once you are drawing the acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction, you are stimulating the receptors, and then sodium potassium starts to work, and you have that muscle contraction, depolarizations and depolarizations. But what has this cobra snake done? He has inhibited he has destroyed, he has caused the skeletal muscle paralysis. Now you will resume it by neostigmin. So stig, I remember neostigmin. Neo means I am giving a new life to this patient. I am giving a new life to this patient. I am giving a new life to this patient. Neostigmin. I am giving a new life to this patient. So in the cobra venom poisoning, in the cobra bite, you are giving this. So guys, if you have to remember this, how you remember is if you have muscarinic agonist, you will have decrease in the intraocular pressure. If you have a muscle agonist, you will have a decreased intraocular pressure. So if you stimulate muscarinic agonist in the eye, you will decrease the intraocular pressure. You will decrease the intraocular pressure. You will cause contraction of ciliary muscle. You will cause contraction of sphincter muscle. You will lead to meiosis. Isn't it? Once you have meiosis, you will have reduced intraocular pressure. Okay. So meiosis, you will have reduced intraocular pressure because you have contracted things. And then what will happen? I will make that diagram, beautiful diagram for you. Here, if I start making the eye, then we will get deviated because we are here concerned about the specific drugs. Then individual treatment, I will be treating you that in the individual parts. Will be separating them. Okay, fine. Now this cobra bite is doing skeletal muscle paralysis, and then you will be giving an anticholinergic. You will be giving a cholinergic, and this is neostigmin, which you will be giving to reverse that paralysis, or you are giving it in post-operative ileus. Post-operative ileus. Post-operative ileus you are giving. You can give it in should write post-operative paralytic ileus. Post-operative paralytic ileus. Okay. Atonic bladder you can also use it. Atonic bladder. Atonic bladder. Okay. Now tell me, you have gone to you are in a surgery. Okay, I give you an example. You are in a surgery. You are going to do a surgery. Before surgery, we do a pre-operative assessment. We assess the patient pre-operatively. We go for QSOFA scoring. We go for every that I will be teaching you in surgery in the third year. Finally, blah 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 blah, coming all that, finishing that, coming to the now the operative OT. Now in the OT, what do you do? What will be doing if you want to do the gut surgery, or you want to operate on any surgery in which you want to sedate the patient, or you want to anesthetize the patient? So you'll give anesthesia. So with anesthesia we will be giving what? We will be giving muscle relaxants also. When we give anesthesia, we will give muscle relaxants, because if you want to cut the abdomen, do I want it to be in relaxed state or contracted state? I want to be in the relaxed state. So what I do is I'll be giving a muscle relaxant to this patient. Now, if I want to reverse that muscle relaxant, should I give competitive? Should I give now again cholinergic in some way or not? If I have a competitive skeletal muscle relaxant, can I reverse it by using neostigmin? So neostigmin again gives new life to the patient. This is how we remember. Neostigmin gave life to the cobra patient. Neostigmin gave life to the skeletal muscle relaxant after he was recovering. This is how I remember this pharmacology. Okay. Okay, done. So we have written where is the box. So you are giving it in cobra. Remember cobra, remember OT, and remember post-operative paralytic ileus, and that much is sufficient. Okay. This is glaucoma, and sulfisostigmine. I will be reducing the intraocular pressure by contraction of this sphincter muscle. So meiosis I will be doing contraction of sphincter muscle, reducing the intraocular pressure, and also I will be doing the accommodation. My near vision will get accommodated. If I contract the ciliary muscle, I will have accommodation for near vision, isn't it? If I have contraction of ciliary muscle, near vision is accommodated. You contract, near vision is accommodated. Sir, how it happens? We'll be teaching you in glaucoma chapter. Okay. Fine. This is also done. Third is pyridostigmine. See guys, pyridostigmine is long acting. Pyridostigmine is long acting. Fine. Long acting. First thing you have to remember. Long acting than neostigmine. Okay. You know, if you want to now tell me one thing, I will tell you one concept. Okay. I will tell you one concept how to make you understand. How to make you understand. Okay, let me say like this. We usually, once we give this neostigmine, have you seen it has some nicotinic action? You have to answer me because to get oriented. Did you saw that neostigmine was having nicotinic action, NM receptor action? Okay. Tell me one thing. If you only want, if you now nicotine was having what? It was having muscarinic action also. Neostigmine is having both actions, muscarinic action also, nicotinic action also, isn't it? It was used in post-operative paralytic illness. It was used in atonic urinary bladder. It was used in, muscle relaxant. So muscle you have come on the muscle. So NNNM. Muscarinic you have talked. Yes, sir. It's about gut and everything, bladder. Now I'm telling you, neostigmine is having both actions. That is nicotinic and muscarinic. But in nicotinic, it has a direct action. Direct action on nicotinic receptor. Now what will happen? You right now tell me one thing. In myasthenia gravis, did you only want or cobra bite? Let me take cobra bite again. Do you only want the muscle to do you want only the muscle to be treated, or you want to treat some other things which are not happening? Nothing has happened in the cobra bite. His muscles has been paralyzed. His skeletal muscles have been paralyzed. Do you want an action on the skeletal muscles only, or do you want the action on some other organs? You don't want an unnecessary action on some organs. I think to be very much judgmental. No judge. If I use my judgment sense, I think I only want muscle. So why will I give that person? So can I give that person? Can I add? Should I have to add in the neostigmine? Do I have to add the atropine? Do I have to block so that I can decrease the muscarinic receptor stimulation? Atropine will decrease the muscarinic receptor stimulation. It's an anticholinergic. So do I want to decrease the muscarinic receptor stimulation? Yes, sir. So atropine is added to neostigmine so that I can decrease the muscarinic receptor action, because I want only dash action in cobra. I only want dash action. I want a dash action. NN receptor. So if I tell you anytime in the hospital, I say, my dears, tell me, I only want an NN receptor action, but I don't want an action on the, and I have neostigmine in my hand. I tell you, I have neostigmine in my hand, and I tell you, okay, I only want to treat the muscle. How you will think? You only want to stimulate the nicotinic receptors, and nicotinic receptors are present on nicotinic NM. NM is present on muscular. But the problem is that once I am giving neostigmine, the patient gets both of the actions. He has nicotinic action as well as muscarinic action. He has nicotinic action as well as muscarinic action. To prevent the muscarinic action, to block the muscarinic action, I will be giving atropine. I will be giving atropine so that I only have the nicotinic. Is it clear? So when I say with neostigmine use, I have to give atropine. Is it true? In case of myasthenia gravis, in case of cobra bite, yes. But this right now, why I made you listen to this story, because I want to say something. Because pyridostigmine does not need that. Pyridostigmine, we don't need to add anything. We don't need to add anything for pyridostigmine. Is it clear? Is it clear, friends? Guys, this is so important. You won't believe how much important it is. So pyridostigmine, we don't want to add any. So I will be telling you now, making a small life for you. Now tell me one thing. This is neostigmine. Neostigmine is having both actions, muscarinic action, nicotinic action. Okay. Neostigmine is having muscarinic or pyridostigmine, if I say pyridostigmine. Now listen to me. I want to treat post-operative paralytic ileus with neostigmine. Will I give atropine or not give atropine? Will I give atropine or not give atropine? I won't give atropine. I won't give atropine because post-operative paralytic ileus is muscarinic. If I only want muscarinic action, no atropine. Remember a concept. Neostigmine is muscarinic without atropine. Muscarinic action you want, don't give atropine. Don't give atropine. You want myasthenia gravis action, you want muscular action, atropine. So remember, muscarinic, don't give atropine. Nicotinic action, give atropine. Because you are here concerned about muscles, you are here going to treat myasthenia gravis, you are here going to treat cobra bite, you are here going to treat muscle relaxant reversal. But in muscarinic action, you are going to treat post-operative paralytic ileus, you are going to treat urinary retention post-op. Is it clear, friend? So we have two dictums for ourselves. Number one, if you want a muscarinic activity, don't give atropine. Don't give atropine. Muscarinic means I'm going into M receptors, M3. Nicotinic, NN, myasthenia gravis, cobra bite, muscle relaxation reversal. This is the concept you have to develop. Again, I reiterate my sentences. You want a muscarinic action, don't give atropine. You want a nicotinic action, give atropine. You only want nicotinic action, that's why you are giving atropine. Nicotinic receptor becomes nicotinic work only when you give atropine. Otherwise, he deviates like that boy. If you give atropine, he will remain on the muscle side. If you don't give atropine, he will go to everywhere. He will go to paralytic ileus. Remember like that. So two things I want you to remember. Muscarinic activity without atropine, post-operative paralytic ileus, post-operative urinary retention. Nicotine plus atropine, myasthenia gravis, cobra bite, non-reversal of the non-depolarizing muscle relaxants. I hope you have enjoyed this topic. We will continue the discussion tomorrow. Take care. Enjoy MBBS. Bye-bye.